Hi, I'm Dan Cheek, broker-owner of Century 21 Winter Park and Grand Lake, back with another edition of Channel 17 Mountain TV's Local Scoop. And I'm really excited about this one today because we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is trout fishing in the Fraser Valley. And I've got a couple of pros with me today. This is Mo, or Mitch, and Henry, or Hank, the owners of Mo Henry's Trout Shop in Fraser. And I believe you guys are related.
Brothers.
Okay, and that's not just in trout fishing blood. That's. I have had some great experiences fishing in Fraser, and a lot of those have been with you guys and your guides. And I just want to talk a little bit about the Fraser Valley fishing experience from your shop in Fraser. How far is it to great fishing?
Just a few steps out the back door.
Really?
You bet.
Right there on the Fraser River.
Absolutely.
Well, what kind of species exist in that river?
Well, it's a native Colorado rainbow trout, as native as they get in Colorado, as well as brown trout, brook trout, and a small population of cutthroats.
Wow. Now, how big do these fish get?
We've actually seen them up to the 24-inch range, which is actually a very large trout for rivers.
That's a big trout.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And how many fish do you catch in a day's fishing? I'm saying you because I know my experience.
Well, I would always say, the goal would be one fish to begin with, but generally speaking, we're looking at the 10 to 40 fish range, depending on the day.
That's fantastic. So you guys have been fishing here for how long?
Since 1987.
So going on 22 years?
You bet.
Wow. Now, what have you seen change about this fishery in those 22 years?
The population of species has changed. Individual species such as the rainbows and browns used to be 90% browns, and now it is 90% rainbows. Now it is 90% browns. The species have changed, but the quality of the fishing and the quantity of fish we catch has actually probably increased.
Wow. What caused the change in species?
It's an invasive species called whirling disease.
Whirling disease. What, can you expound on that a little bit? What is that?
Basically, whirling disease is a small parasite that lives in a worm that lives in the sediments along the stream, and it is ingested by the fish at a very small size and affects the development, and they end up, the body's misshapen, they end up whirling, and they just have a very hard time feeding, and consequently just don't make it.
And that only affected the rainbows, or almost only affected the rainbows?
They were more susceptible. The browns kind of came up in the same waters that whirling disease originated in.
Oh, okay. So whirling disease is not indigenous to our waters, is what
No.
you're saying. So how did it get here?
It was just, it was transported from waterway to waterway by, most likely by humans, but possibly by the fish themselves.
How would I transport whirling disease from one waterway to another?
Well, you can transport it if you go from one river to another with your waders still wet or within 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The actual soles of a common wading boot has felt, which is very porous,
Right.
and that's easily contains any invasive species within that waterway.
Have what can we do about that?
Well, knowledge is one thing. Cleaning your waders is another. Companies like Sims have come out with a new sole, the Vibram sole, which doesn't have the same porosity as the felt soles do, and it definitely has the same ability to wade and maintain that friction in the water.
So it's non-porous, so you're not going to get parasites that live in the sole, and you can't carry it anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going to transport at the same degree as felt soles would.
Well, that's good stuff.
Absolutely.
So I currently have felt bottom wading boots. I guess what you're telling me is if I buy this boot, then the whirling disease problem is solved.
Well, your problem solves because that is your size.
Okay.
The whirling disease problem still exists. We've just tried to combat it with introducing species that are mostly resistant to the whirling disease. Our greatest invasive species to the state of Colorado is most likely Kentucky bluegrass.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it drinks more than 50% of the water in the Fraser River.
Wow. I always see water in the Fraser River. I don't really notice big differences. I mean, tell me what the problem is.
We end up with more water, obviously, in the spring, and people see that, and then they don't make the correlation between the dwindling flows throughout the summer when temperature becomes an issue and threatens the ecosystem more.
So trout like cold water?
Absolutely.
Okay. And when it gets slower and stagnant, and we got a problem.
Absolutely.
What else can we do to educate ourselves and the public?
Stop by the shop. We can get you involved with Trout Unlimited, some of the programs that they're working on currently. Get you onto some different websites, more information. Conservation. That's a huge thing for us. Conservation is going to help preserve the water as a resource.
Well, I enjoy fishing. I think that comes across, and we know you guys do too. But water is a really, really important resource for so many reasons, and not just our fisheries.
A very
And,
complex topic.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you guys are so active in water conservation and can be so educational.
Well, to continue to have the fun, catch the quality and quantity of fish that we do in this area, it's an opportunity to maybe act with prevention instead of react to a disaster. So in an educational way, we can get the word out and protect our natural resources where our favorite species live.
Well, all right. Thank you guys for being here very much.
Pleasure.
And,
Thank you.
If you want to educate yourselves more about conservation of the Fraser and Colorado rivers and our water here in the Fraser Valley, stop by Mo Henry's and get educated and go fishing. This is Dan Cheek, broker owner of Century 21 in Winter Park and Grand Lake, with another edition of Channel 17 Mountain TV's Local Scoop, signing off.